The wind howled low across the plains that evening, whistling through the sagebrush like a whisper from the dead. Sheriff Luke Harlan pulled his duster tighter around his shoulders, eyes scanning the dim horizon as his horse plodded onward. The sky had that bruised color that came right before nightfall, when the world seemed to hold its breath. He'd been riding since dawn, following the faint trail of the McKinley rustlers. Ghosts, it seemed, leaving little behind but hoofprints and bad intentions. He wasn't a man who spooked easy, but something about that night gnawed at him. The silence felt too heavy, too deliberate. His horse snorted uneasily, ears twitching. Luke's hand fell to the grip of his Colt. He was 5 miles from the nearest town, 15 from the nearest friendly soul, and the smell of rain and old wood drifted on the breeze. Then came the sound. It was faint at first, so faint he almost thought the wind was playing tricks on him. But there it was again, carried across the distance. A woman's voice, soft, trembling, pained. "There, it hurts." Luke froze in his saddle. Every instinct screamed caution. Outlaws had 100 dirty tricks, and a wounded voice in the wild could be one of them. But he couldn't ride past. Not him. With a sharp pull on the reins, he turned his horse toward the sound and rode hard through the dry grass, the noise growing clearer with each hoofbeat. He found the barn half hidden behind a rise, a weathered old structure, likely abandoned years ago. The roof sagged, and the door hung by a single hinge. His boots hit the ground with a thud as he dismounted. He tied his horse to a fence post and stepped forward, revolver drawn. Inside, the smell of dust and old hay filled his lungs. It was dark, save for the last threads of sunlight slipping through the slats. The place was silent except for the faint moan that came again, closer now, unmistakably human. He moved toward the sound, his boots quiet on the dirt floor, heart hammering against his ribs. Then he saw her. A young woman lay near a collapsed beam, her pale dress smeared with mud and torn at the shoulder. One leg was pinned beneath a thick plank of wood. Her hair, golden, tangled, fell across her face, and her eyes flicked open as he approached. Pain twisted her expression. "Don't move," he said softly, holstering his weapon. "I'll get you out." She tried to speak, but the words came out broken. "Please, it hurts to breathe." Luke knelt beside her and tested the beam. It was heavy, solid oak, and wedged awkwardly against a support post. He shifted his stance and pushed. The wood creaked but refused to budge. "Hold on," he murmured. "Just hold on." Sweat beaded on his forehead as he strained again, muscles burning. Finally, the beam shifted an inch, then 2. The woman cried out as it scraped her leg, the sound sharp and desperate. "There, it hurts," she moaned again, clutching the dirt. Luke froze, his chest heaving. He'd heard pain before. Gunshot wounds, broken bones, but there was something strange in her tone, something that made his gut twist. Still, he kept pushing until the beam rolled aside. "You're free," he said, catching his breath. "Can you stand?" She looked at him with watery eyes and shook her head. I don't think so." He slipped an arm under her shoulders, lifting her gently. Her skin was cold, trembling against his. He could feel her heartbeat, fast and uneven. Then something shifted in the shadows behind him. The barn door creaked. A slow, deliberate sound that didn't belong to the wind. Luke's instincts snapped tight. He turned slightly, eyes narrowing. The light had dimmed even further now, and in the gloom, he saw it. Movement, a shape near the stalls. His hand drifted toward his gun, but before he could draw, a metallic click cut through the air. "Drop it, Sheriff," came a voice, rough as gravel. Luke straightened slowly. Out of the darkness stepped a man with a rifle, a sneer curling under a scruffy beard. The moonlight caught the edge of his grin. "Ain't your lucky night, lawman." Luke's jaw tightened. The girl's breathing hitched, and her eyes darted toward the stranger. That was when Luke realized the truth. The fear in her face wasn't just from pain. It was from guilt. He'd walked right into a trap. For a long, breathless moment, time seemed to freeze inside that burning barn. Luke stood perfectly still, every nerve alive with danger, the acrid smoke beginning to rise around them. The outlaw's rifle was steady, aimed right at his chest. The wounded girl trembled in the dirt beside him, her wide eyes flicking between the two men, between death and what little mercy was left in the night. Luke raised his hands slowly, palms open, the gesture of a man who'd stared down barrels before but never liked it. "Easy now," he said quietly. "Ain't no need to make this messy." The outlaw smirked, stepping forward, boots crunching on dry straw. "Oh, it's already messy, Sheriff. You've been riding my trail for weeks. Thought you'd sniff us out like some bloodhound, didn't ya?" He spat on the floor. "You got closer than I liked. So we figured we'd bring you in proper." Luke's eyes flicked toward the girl. Her lip quivered, shame glimmering beneath the soot and tears on her face. He understood now. She hadn't just stumbled into trouble. She'd been bait, used by the gang to lure him here. "Sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. They said if I helped, they'd let me go." The outlaw laughed. "And maybe we still will, sweetheart. After the lawman here's had his say." Luke's pulse pounded in his ears. He took one cautious step, as if to kneel beside her again. "Let her go," he said, his tone calm, deliberate. "She's not part of this fight." "Oh, she's part of it, all right," the outlaw drawled. "Every part." Luke's boot brushed something cold, metal. The fallen lantern. It lay just inches from his heel, the glass cracked, still holding the faint glow of its last flame. His gaze flickered down, just for an instant, then back up. The outlaw didn't notice. "You know what's funny?" Luke said slowly, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "Men like you always think you're one move ahead." The outlaw tilted his head, confused. "What's that supposed to?" Luke kicked the lantern. It smashed across the floorboards, and in an instant, fire leapt to life. Flames crawled hungrily along the hay, bright and fast. The outlaw cursed, jerking the rifle upward. Luke dove sideways, grabbing his Colt from the dirt. He fired once. Clean, sure. The shot cracked through the chaos, echoing through the hollow barn. The outlaw stumbled back, his weapon clattering from his hand. Then he fell. Hard, unmoving. Luke didn't waste a second. Smoke was already filling the air, thick and choking. The fire roared up the walls, painting everything in orange light. He dropped beside the girl and slid his arms beneath her, lifting her as gently as he could. She gasped in pain but didn't fight him. "Hold on," he murmured. "We're getting out." He carried her toward the door, shielding her from the falling sparks. The heat seared his face, and his lungs burned, but he kept moving. Every step felt like pushing through the gates of hell. The door had swollen from the heat, but with one hard kick, it burst open, and the two of them tumbled out into the cold night air. For a moment, Luke just lay there, gasping, the girl in his arms. Behind them, the barn was a furnace, flames clawing high into the starless sky. The horses nearby neighed and bolted, silhouettes against the inferno. The girl stirred, clutching weakly at his coat. You should have left me," she whispered. "After what I did." Luke looked down at her, his face shadowed by firelight. "Not my way, ma'am." Her tears caught the light, gleaming like tiny embers. "You don't understand. They'll come for you now." He wasn't alone. "I figured as much." He reached for the canteen on his belt, poured a trickle of water over her wound. But one fight at a time. The wind shifted, carrying sparks across the plain. For a moment, it almost looked like snow, beautiful and deadly. Luke turned his gaze back to the burning barn. He'd buried men before. He'd watched too many good things go up in flames. But something about this night felt different. The girl wasn't just another victim. She was a reminder of how thin the line was between guilt and survival, between justice and mercy. When the last of the fire began to fade, he helped her to his horse. She leaned against him, exhausted. "Where will you take me?" she asked softly. "Someplace safe," he said. "Then I'll find whoever's left of your friends." She nodded, too tired to argue. As they rode off into the darkness, the only light behind them came from the dying barn fire, flickering like the end of a bad dream. Luke didn't look back again. Out here, in the wild silence of the frontier, he knew that mercy came with a cost. And he was ready to pay it, one outlaw at a time.